Pet sitter on Rover got drunk, left my dog starving, trashed my house, and now her car's abandoned in my driveway. I hired a sitter on Rover over a month ago for a trip this week, from last Saturday through Friday, today, to house sit at my house. We did a meet and greet. I liked her. She has 8 5-star reviews over the last year and a half, with the last several months of verified stays. Booked through Rover. We did exchange WhatsApp numbers because I'm out of the country on this trip and do not have an international calling plan. She sent messages the first few days. Wednesday at 3 a.m. she sent a message that she had been sick with a stomach bug, but was feeling better. She asked a question about one dog's behavior, sitting in the bathroom barking, and I responded, she probably wants fresh water, she's asking to drink from the toilet. I didn't hear anything, so I sent several messages checking in, on WhatsApp and Rover. No response. I checked my smart lock on my door and there was very minimal locking and unlocking, and always from the inside. I checked my camera outside the door. My dogs happened to be outside, so I watched them. Then you hear a man I don't know, say okay one last shot. Then the man whistles for the dogs to come inside, and she wobbles into the doorway. They walk out and she falls over and he catches her. They leave together in, I assume, his vehicle. She was barefoot and obviously heavily intoxicated. That was 4 p.m. Thursday. I sent my friend over around midnight to check on the dogs and let them out. She found my bottles of liquor, now empty, all over the dining table. They were all either brand new or over half full. A handful of my Truly seltzers empty and in the trash, a container of Kratom on the table and several more in the trash, a couple empty bottles of a THC drink, with more in the fridge, that are not mine. A weed vape pen on the table. Loose pills in the bottom of her purse, methocarbamol 500 milligrams. That matches a prescription my dog has, but she had more than what my dog was prescribed, so either none or only some were stolen from my dog. My boxes where I keep medications were taken down from the cabinet in the bathroom and set on the counter in back of the toilet. I won't know if any are missing until I get home, but I have the things worth stealing with me. The toilet was clogged. The second toilet has a towel under it like it was leaking, which it has never done before. My dog's free feed, I keep food in their bowls at all times. Both bowls were empty. Their water, a 2-gallon bowl with fountain, was empty. My friend put 5 cups of food in both bowls and they immediately ate all of it. Then she put another 5 cups in both bowls and they kept eating. They never do this, so they hadn't been fed in a long time. Thank you for reading this far. I want to know, what is every single step I should take next? I have already made a report to Rover. I can't call their number until I am back in the country at my layover around 6:30 p.m. today. I sent them all the pictures from my friend and the video from my camera of her falling over. They are sending it to their trust and safety team and said I should get a response within 24 hours. They have offered no alternatives to pet care in the meantime. My friend spoke with the police and they said her stuff is abandoned property, so have her car towed and do whatever with her things inside my house. If she comes back, I can keep her stuff until I am home and make sure she only leaves with her things. I have deactivated her door code so it won't work and all doors are locked, but I will see if she attempts to come back and use her code. Her car is still in my driveway. My friend peeked inside and saw synthetic urine inside. I have not had any communication since the message Wednesday. How much liability is on Rover? Update 1. I finished reviewing all the camera footage. It took most of the Saturday and Sunday after arriving home. The sitter arrived at my home at 10:30 a.m. Saturday. I hadn't requested her to start until the afternoon, but she said she happened to be off work so would show up early. She started drinking the seltzers on the front porch at 11 a.m. that day. She notices the camera and tries to hide the cans in her dress as she drinks them outside Saturday and Sunday. She also smokes outside those days. I found an empty HHC sativa cigarette box, and saw her bring that into the house, plus found a lighter. I assume that's what she was smoking. Her boyfriend starts showing up on Tuesday and shows up every day after that, usually twice a day. I've never met him and never agreed to allow him in my house. She appears drunk while leaving Tuesday at 6:30 p.m., and no one returns until she comes back Wednesday at 8:30 a.m., also stumbling. She sent me an update at 3:30 a.m., while not even at my house, to say she had a stomach bug and ask about my one dog barking in the bathroom. I responded saying she was asking for water. That was the last communication I had from her until Friday morning, when her BF tried to get into the house with her code. I sent several messages and requests for updates, via Rover and WhatsApp, but didn't hear back. The first time the door opens on Thursday is at 3:45 p.m. when her boyfriend shows up. It's possible she let the dogs out in the backyard, but until then they had been going out the side door, with the camera, quite often, so I suspect they weren't let out at all that day. Watching the full video, her BF has a moment of breaking down crying, facing the outdoor camera with his back to her, after finding her, so I don't think he was encouraging her to drink. His full comment, after listening very closely, is take one last shot and then we'll go and there's another, quieter, we gotta get out of here. I think he was just trying to convince her to leave. I do think it's possible she was actually in the hospital. I never saw anyone else show up to the house, so given how much she drank, she absolutely should have been in the hospital. In general, the videos were a lot of just the dogs being outside, barking to come in, wandering around, and Ginny begging for someone to throw her frisbee. It was so hard to watch them be ignored like that. I feel guilty for not keeping a closer eye on my camera. I normally watch the door locking and unlocking, and use that to check the camera, but she wasn't locking it, even overnight or when she left the house. I know I wouldn't have caught the early signs of drinking the seltzers unless I was watching every single video, but I am feeling the parent guilt over everything my babies went through. I have written out a full timeline of events, saved all relevant videos, saved screenshots of all conversations on WhatsApp and Rover, printed all emails with Rover, included a copy of my dog sitting instructions, and collected every photo from myself and my friends. I updated the itemized list to include the actual amount of time my friends spent here, screenshots of Uber costs, and things like that, plus court costs. I ordered all photos to be printed to bring to court. I'm not sure how to share the videos other than bring my tablet to court, but I took the most damning screenshot from every video and added that to the printed photos. I officially filed paperwork for a civil suit against her, and the sheriff has everything to serve her. After double checking all the costs of everything, getting the total from the housekeeper, and adding in court-related costs, I am suing for $1,124. If all goes well, court will be mid-May. I searched public records in my area for her, and she has no record, for crimes or probation, that I could find. I am guessing the synthetic urine was to pass a drug screen for work. I was able to get a housekeeper to come Monday to help with the sticky mess and gross bathrooms. I've been doing laundry for days, in between all the documentation. Everything in my house feels gross and violated. The pups are acting relatively normal, maybe little more tired than usual. The independent hound dog is definitely clingier than usual, and actually listening when I tell her to come. The Carolina dog couldn't possibly get more clingy than she already was, and she's acting perfectly normal. I took them on a car ride with me to get food because I couldn't bear to leave them, and they got spoiled with some chicken nuggets. They are getting extra treats and love. The vet said that after 6 days without it, the Prozac is basically out of Ginny's system and it could take another 6 to 8 weeks to see full effects again. There is also a chance it will not work at all anymore after suddenly stopping it. So far it does seem she is calmer, so I'm hoping she is feeling better to be back on it and home safe with mama. Attached is the full Ree's original image from my friend for the haters. Update 2. I showed up at the most recent court date. I tried to have the sheriff serve her, paperwork returned as multiple failed attempts. I sent certified mail to her home, returned undeliverable. I sent certified mail to her business and someone, not her, signed for it, and that was then returned to the court as well. The judge said that I have to continue to attempt, and they cannot hear the case until she is served. My only allowed options for serving her are via sheriff or certified mail. So, I need help. How do I find her and get her served? The sheriff and post office left notes that they attempted to reach her, so she knows I'm after her. I have the following information on her, because of everything she left in my house, which has since been returned: full name, address at the time of events, her frequently used username, from her Cash App credit card, her social security number, her card was in her things, current and former driver's license, her past workplaces, business cards, and her now expired car dealership seller license number. It's not searchable, unfortunately. I've found her Facebook page, minimal public info, Instagram, barely used, and Reddit account, frequently used, but nothing on this subreddit. Based on what I have, it looks like she moved to another city too. 5 hours away, but in the same state. I'm not sure if it's allowed to post the state, but that's super relevant because legal issues vary so wildly from state to state, so I'll put it in a comment in case that needs deleted. Update 3. Well, this story just got a whole lot more complicated. I hired a private investigator to help track down the sitter for serving, and what he found has completely blown my mind. First, the good news, he found her new address in the city too. 5 hours away. She's been served. Court is now scheduled for August 15th. But that's where the good news ends. The PI dug deeper into her background and discovered she's been running this scam for over 2 years across multiple platforms, not just Rover, but Care.com, WAG, and even local Facebook groups. She creates fake profiles with stolen photos and fabricated reviews. Those verified stays on Rover? All from fake accounts she created herself. The PI found at least 8 other victims in 3 different states who had similar experiences: pets neglected, alcohol stolen, property damaged, and then she disappears. But here's where it gets really twisted. The boyfriend from the videos? That's actually her husband. And get this, he's a paramedic. A freaking paramedic who was watching his wife drink herself into oblivion and abandon helpless animals. The PI found their marriage certificate and his EMT license. I'm wondering if he's the one who got her out of whatever medical situation she was in that Thursday night. The synthetic urine makes more sense now. She was probably trying to pass drug tests for new pet sitting gigs. The methocarbamol pills? Turns out she has a prescription for muscle relaxers due to a workplace injury, but she had way more than prescribed, so she was definitely stealing from other clients' pet medications too. I contacted the other victims the PI found. 3 of them are joining me in a class action lawsuit. One woman in Colorado had her senior dog's heart medication stolen, and the dog went into cardiac distress. Another in Texas came home to find her cat had been locked in a bathroom for 4 days without food or water. The most heartbreaking one was a family in Tennessee who hired her to watch their diabetic dog while they attended a funeral. She never gave the insulin injections and the dog nearly died. Here's the kicker though, while digging through her abandoned stuff more thoroughly, I found a burner phone wedged between my couch cushions. When I powered it on, it was full of messages between her and someone named Marcus planning to come back to my house after I returned from my trip. They were discussing what else might be worth taking and Marcus was asking about my security system. I immediately turned this over to the police, and they're treating it as evidence of conspiracy to commit burglary. The plot thickens even more. My neighbor across the street came over yesterday and said she remembered seeing the sitter's car in my driveway, but also remembered seeing a different car there multiple times during the week I was gone. She described a red pickup truck that would park down the street and someone would walk to my house. She thought it was weird but didn't want to be nosy. I'm now wondering if Marcus was already casing my place or if there were even more people involved. The police ran the license plate of her abandoned car and discovered it was reported stolen from a dealership 3 weeks before she started pet sitting for me. She never owned the car, she stole it from the lot where she used to work, explains the expired dealer license. The synthetic urine was probably for drug tests to get new jobs at different dealerships. I've been in contact with Rover's legal team, and they're now cooperating with the investigation. They admitted that her profile was flagged multiple times by their algorithm for suspicious activity, but they never followed up. They're facing their own legal issues because of this. The most unsettling part? The PI found evidence that she's been using my home address on job applications and credit card applications since she was here. She somehow got enough of my personal information to attempt identity theft. I've had to freeze my credit, change all my passwords, and I'm working with a credit monitoring service. My poor dogs are still recovering. Ginny's anxiety is worse than ever, and she's been having accidents in the house, something she hasn't done since she was a puppy. The vet thinks it's trauma-related. The hound dog jumps every time someone comes to the door now and won't let me out of her sight. I've installed additional security cameras, changed all my locks again, and I'm sleeping with a baseball bat next to my bed. I keep thinking about those messages planning to rob me. What if I hadn't found that phone? What if they had come back? The most infuriating part is that this woman is still out there, probably scamming other pet owners right now. The PI found a new profile she created on WAG just last week with yet another fake name and stolen photos. We've reported it, but who knows how many platforms she's on. Court is still 2 months away, but between the criminal charges, the civil suit, and the potential federal charges for identity theft and interstate fraud, I'm hoping justice will finally be served. The other victims and I are also working on getting her banned from all major pet sitting platforms permanently. I trusted this woman with my babies, and she nearly killed them while turning my home into her personal party house and planning to rob me. I'm never using a pet sitting service again. Update 4. I honestly don't know where to even begin with this latest development. Remember how I mentioned the PI found evidence she was using my address for job applications? Well, it turns out that was just the tip of the iceberg. 3 weeks ago, I got a call from a woman named Sarah who said she'd been trying to reach me about our shared situation. I had no idea what she was talking about until she mentioned the pet sitter's name. Let's call her Jessica. Turns out Sarah is Jessica's ex-girlfriend, and she's been tracking Jessica's scams for over a year because Jessica destroyed her life too. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. Sarah told me that Jessica isn't just a pet sitting scammer, she's been running a much bigger con. She targets women going through divorces or breakups, offers them friendship and support, moves in with them temporarily, and then systematically destroys their lives. Sarah was victim number 1. According to Sarah, Jessica moved in with her after Sarah's messy divorce 2 years ago. Within 3 months, Jessica had convinced Sarah to put her name on the lease, maxed out Sarah's credit cards, and started an affair with Sarah's ex-husband. But here's the kicker, Jessica recorded everything. She had videos of Sarah having emotional breakdowns, audio recordings of their intimate conversations, and even footage of Sarah in compromising situations around the house. When Sarah finally tried to kick Jessica out, Jessica threatened to release everything online and send it to Sarah's workplace and family unless Sarah paid her $10,000. Sarah paid, but Jessica didn't stop. She kept demanding more money and eventually cleaned out Sarah's entire savings account before disappearing. But wait, it gets worse. Sarah discovered that Jessica was running the same scam on at least 4 other women simultaneously. She'd move between their homes, using each woman's address for different purposes, and playing them against each other. Some of these women didn't even know about the others. The most disturbing part? Jessica specifically targeted women with pets because it made them more vulnerable and trusting. She'd use the pet sitting gigs to scope out potential long-term victims, women who seemed lonely, financially stable, or going through major life changes. Sarah had been collecting evidence for months, trying to build a case against Jessica, when she saw my story online. She recognized the pattern immediately. The fake boyfriend? That's actually Jessica's brother, not her husband like the PI thought. He's been helping her with these scams for years, playing different roles depending on what Jessica needed. The identity theft using my address wasn't random. Jessica was planning to use my information to apply for an apartment where she could run her next long-term con. She'd already started chatting with a recently divorced woman in my neighborhood through a local Facebook group, posing as someone who'd been through similar struggles. Sarah and I started comparing notes, and the timeline is terrifying. While Jessica was destroying my house and neglecting my dogs, she was also actively grooming her next victim, a woman named Claire who lives just 6 blocks from me. Claire had posted in a local divorce support group about feeling lonely and struggling to trust again after her husband's affair. Jessica had been messaging Claire for weeks, offering support and friendship. She'd even planned to accidentally run into Claire at a coffee shop the week after she was supposed to finish pet sitting for me. The plan was to gradually work her way into Claire's life, eventually moving in and starting the cycle all over again. When Sarah and I reached out to Claire to warn her, she broke down crying. She said she'd been looking forward to meeting Jessica because she'd been feeling so isolated since her divorce. Jessica had been telling Claire that she was a life coach who specialized in helping women rebuild after betrayal. She'd even offered to help Claire with her 2 rescue dogs, claiming she was a professional pet sitter with years of experience. The 3 of us, Sarah, Claire, and I, decided to team up. We created a group chat and started sharing everything we knew. Sarah had evidence of Jessica's cons dating back 2 years. Claire had screenshots of all their conversations, which showed Jessica's manipulation tactics in real time. And I had the physical evidence from my house plus the criminal case. But here's where the story takes another crazy turn. While we were putting together our evidence, Claire got a message from Jessica saying she was in the hospital and needed someone to take care of her because she had no one else. Jessica claimed she'd been in a car accident and was scared and alone. We all knew it was manipulation, but Claire felt terrible ignoring someone who might actually be hurt. So Sarah and I convinced her to go to the hospital Jessica claimed to be at, not to help, but to see if she was actually there and potentially confront her. Jessica wasn't there. In fact, when we described her to the staff, they said no one matching her description had been admitted in the past week. But while we were there, a nurse overheard us talking and said, "Wait, are you talking about the woman who was here last month claiming to be a service dog trainer?" She tried to get into the pediatric ward saying she was there to help a sick child with their emotional support animal. The nurse said Jessica had been escorted out by security after they realized she had no credentials and no legitimate reason to be there. She'd been asking detailed questions about the families in the pediatric ward, including which ones seemed to have money and which parents were struggling emotionally. I felt sick. She'd been targeting families with sick children. What kind of monster does that? We reported everything to the police, but they said without more concrete evidence of recent crimes, their hands were tied. The pet sitting incident was still making its way through the system, and Jessica had been careful to keep her other cons in gray legal areas. That's when Sarah made a decision that changed everything. She said she was going to pretend to be a new victim and try to get Jessica to meet her. Sarah still had Jessica's number, and Jessica didn't know that Sarah was in contact with me or that we'd figured out her patterns. Sarah texted Jessica, pretending to be desperate and lonely. She said she'd been thinking about their friendship and regretted how things ended. She claimed she was going through another crisis and needed someone to talk to. Jessica responded within an hour. She was suddenly very interested in reconnecting and being there for Sarah. She suggested they meet at a coffee shop to talk things through. We spent days planning this meetup. Sarah would wear a wire, borrowed from a friend's security company, and Claire and I would be at nearby tables recording everything on our phones. The plan was to get Jessica to admit to the scams or at least reveal information about her other victims. The day of the meeting, I was so nervous I could barely eat. We got to the coffee shop early and set up our surveillance. Sarah looked terrified but determined. She'd practiced what to say to get Jessica talking without seeming suspicious. Jessica showed up 20 minutes late, looking completely different from the videos I'd seen. She'd dyed her hair black and was wearing glasses. She looked thinner and more paranoid, constantly checking over her shoulder. What happened next was beyond anything we'd planned for. Jessica didn't just admit to the scams, she broke down completely. She started crying and confessing to everything. She talked about how she'd been doing this for years, how she'd targeted dozens of women, how she felt trapped in the cycle but didn't know how to stop. But then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said she knew we were watching her. She pointed directly at my table and said, "I know you're here, and I know what you're trying to do." The coffee shop went completely silent. Jessica stood up and walked over to our table. She sat down next to me and said, "I've been expecting this confrontation for weeks. I know about your little group chat. I know about the evidence you've been collecting. And I know about the court date." My heart was pounding. How did she know about the group chat? How did she know we were there? Jessica smiled and said, "Claire's been keeping me updated on everything. She's been playing you both from the beginning." I looked over at Claire, who was supposed to be recording at the table behind us. She was gone. Sarah and I just stared at each other in shock. Jessica continued, "Claire isn't a victim. She's my partner. She's been running cons with me for 6 months. The whole recently divorced woman thing? Fake. The rescue dogs? Fake. The vulnerability and tears when you warned her about me? All acting." She pulled out her phone and showed us screenshots of Claire reporting back to her about everything Sarah and I had shared. Every piece of evidence we'd collected, every plan we'd made, every strategy we'd discussed, Claire had been feeding it all back to Jessica. "The best part," Jessica said, "is that Claire has been in your houses. She's seen your security systems, your valuables, your daily routines. She knows exactly when you're vulnerable. That's when I realized the true scope of what we were dealing with. This wasn't just a pet-sitting scammer or even a con artist targeting lonely women. This was an organized operation with multiple people working together to systematically destroy lives. Jessica stood up to leave and said, "The court date is in 3 weeks. I'll be there, but you might want to check your credit reports and your bank accounts. Claire's been busy while you've been focused on me." She walked out of the coffee shop, leaving Sarah and me sitting there in complete shock. We immediately called the police, but Jessica was long gone by the time they arrived. I rushed home to check my security system and found that someone had been in my house while I was at the coffee shop. Nothing seemed to be missing, but I could tell someone had been there. My dogs were acting strange, and there were muddy footprints in the kitchen that weren't mine. Sarah had the same experience at her place. We realized that while we'd been focused on Jessica at the coffee shop, Claire had been using the opportunity to break into our homes. Over the next few days, we discovered the full extent of the damage. Claire had somehow gotten access to both of our online banking accounts and had been slowly siphoning money in small amounts that we hadn't noticed. She'd also applied for credit cards in our names and had been using them to make purchases that she then returned for cash. The most disturbing discovery was in Sarah's house. Hidden in her bedroom closet, we found a small camera that had been recording everything. Claire had been watching Sarah's daily routines, documenting her comings and goings, and probably planning something much worse than financial theft. We called the police again, but they said the case was now so complex that it would take weeks to sort through everything. They advised us to stay somewhere else while they investigated. I'm currently staying with my sister, and my dogs are with me. Sarah is staying with her parents. We're both looking over our shoulders constantly, wondering if Jessica and Claire are still watching us. The court date is in 2 weeks, and I have no idea what to expect. My lawyer says the criminal charges are solid, but the civil case has become incredibly complicated with all these new developments. The scariest part is that I keep thinking about all the other women out there who might be targets right now. How many Claires are there, pretending to be vulnerable victims while actually being predators? How many Jessicas are out there, running these elaborate cons? I trusted someone with my pets, and it led to discovering an entire network of people whose job it is to destroy lives. I don't know how this ends, but I know it's far from over.